Welcome back, casuals, to the fourth installment of the JEB Board podcast. With me is the 28-3 denier, Brandon Black. Mr. Bounty Gate was just a way for them to play harder. Caleb Naylor, the lumberjack Nick Noah, and the cheese brain Kyle Oberart. Guys, how are we doing?
We haven't been canceled yet.
We are we are going strong so far on not being canceled. So, just saying, everybody, we have moved to Spotify and Apple Podcasts too. I know we're doing the first three episodes on YouTube, but now, like I said, you can listen to us instead of having to watch us and having to pull up YouTube. So just for the convenience for everybody listening, we are on that. Another thing we want to touch on real quick, this is going to be a special episode because this week in college football is big. Has a lot of matchups. This is where conference play really starts. So there's a lot of good matchups this week. So we are actually going to take fantasy out this week. I'm sorry for everybody that used us for our fantasy advice. I know Hayes was a big listener, and I think Foster was too. He took a lot of
everyone else faded every single thing we said.
Yeah,
and probably won.
Yeah. So, but like I said, we're taking fantasy out this week. It will be back next week, but we need to allocate as much time as we can for the biggest week so far in college football. So, also want to put in my plug here for my wiffle ball team, Sons of Pitches. We are currently 2-0. We're a team full of free agents, but we are just murking people. Like, we got a team, we got a baller at pitching. We got like this lady that she's like a vet. Apparently last year she played like 8 months pregnant. Like she is the veteran on the team.
That kid is now on the team.
Yeah, that could probably play and it would help. So it's crazy. Like, we won the first game 13-3, and then we won the second game 15-0. So right now we're outscoring people 28-3. Sorry, baby. I apologize for that. I know it's still a sore subject.
If only it would end at halftime.
Yeah.
I wish it would have ended at halftime.
So, well, speaking of 28-3 and games in the NFL, I guess we will start our NFL segment. We're going to go straight into the highlights and lowlights of this week. So I know one of the highlights that I am proud of that was actually a pleasant surprise is Baker Mayfield going for what, 337, I think,
Dog.
and a touchdown. A dog.
26 for 34, 317 yards passing, and a touchdown.
And then I think if I'm not mistaken, he had a couple rushing yards too.
Yep, had a handful. I think if you're a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, you are really, really proud of Sunday's performance.
Absolutely. And like, just coming from a Bucks fan myself, I'm very pleasantly shocked at how well they've played so far. I know the Vikings aren't really looking up to par like we thought they were. And then the Bears are the Bears, but it's like I was expecting to go 1-1 in the first two games. Now we're sitting here 2-0, kind of looking up. So I can't really complain myself from Baker Mayfield.
Well, you talking about his rushing. I mean, his yards weren't impressive, but he did just enough to get those critical first downs on third down. And he did just enough to extend plays, which isn't, a stat, but all the rushing he does to keep plays alive to, throw to the 80-yard pass that Mike Evans gets, when that's invaluable. He's playing like he did at Oklahoma.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a very high standard that he's holding himself to right now.
We are clearly out of the Baker Mayfield Hulu era. By far.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is like the offensive line is not as abysmal as I originally thought it was going to be, which is great for me. It's great. I mean, because it looks like the rushing attack is not bad either. I mean, granted, I think Rachaad White had like 80 yards rushing maybe, but there was about 4 ball carriers too. So, and obviously the Bucks are geared more towards the pass anyways. With Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So like but their strength, which I mean, arguably has been their strength for the past 10, 15 years, is their defense. Their defense is bend, don't break. So like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised. And then our second highlight of the week, which I know Nick was. Yeah, I know Nick is going to run away with this one. Is let me see if I'm saying this guy's name right. Is it Puka Nacua?
Puka Nacua
had himself a ball game.
Not just one, but two.
Yeah, he has 25 catches through 2 games.
He has taken the Cooper Cup role, and he's a rookie out of BYU, and he set the all-time receptions record through his first 2 games out of anyone else in the NFL history with how many catches he's had. And about 50% of them are just drag routes, but he just looks like he's gliding out there, and he has become Matthew Stafford's favorite target.
Yeah. And let me ask you guys, do you think he will keep up this production when Cup is back?
I think he could actually do better with Cup. You get less pressure on him. With 2 men on the field, he can get it open a lot better. You can see way more production out of it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And especially, Matt Stafford, of course, he's Matt Stafford, so he's not perfect, but he's playing at a very high level, to be honest, and he is playing far better than he did last season thus far, and he's going to get the ball. He's healthy. He's going to get the ball to Cup and Nacua.
Yeah, absolutely. And then our third pick for our highlight, I'll let BB take it away with this one. Bijan Robinson, a dog. What was that?
Kyle, what size shoe does he wear?
Oh, shut up.
I'm just saying, what I said happened Sunday.
Yeah. Yep.
And Bijan Robertson, 170 yard scrimmage yards. All of that was foreseen, but what I did not foresee was my low light. I would really want to get my low light.
I will say Bijan Robinson. I hopefully will get Joe Barry fired. I've been praying for this for 2 seasons, and I hope. I mean, how can you not stop the run when you know they're going to run? They just gave the game away.
Desmond Ridder had 250 yards passing.
Yeah, Ridder had a decent game. He gave up a pick, but I mean, it was just one pick, wasn't it?
Yeah, just one pick, and the one pick.
They dominated the rushing more than the passing. And
hey, that's a balanced offense, is what I call it.
Well, that's called an air raid. That's called an air 200 pass with 170. Yeah, that's air raid. Well, and I guess that will go into our low light. One of our low lights this week was Jordan Love, specifically getting himself on his own hard count. So go ahead, BB. I know you're trying to take this one away.
Yes, you think you've seen it all. You think you've seen it all. I thought it was like in real time. I was like, no way, we just jumped off sides with that. And they showed the replay of him, I guess, trying to run without the ball. Was what he was trying to do. It was so bad that my girlfriend was like, "What just happened?" I was like, "I have no idea."
Yeah,
but the bad part was not the hard count, but the 151 yards passing that he had after Kyle said that he was going to pass for
3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but all in the first half. Well, where was the other half of the game?
I feel like Packers try to play conservative, and it bit them in the butt right there doing that. Not having Aaron Jones really proved to be a problem.
So,
yeah, and going into our I just want to point out I'm about to start saying "get hard counted nerd" all the time on this podcast now. Like, that is going to be a catchphrase on this podcast. Get hard counted nerd.
Make sure there's no pauses in that sentence.
But seriously, that's almost as bad as the butt fumble. I think
No.
you told me that earlier, Grayson.
It was pretty bad. That was
Yeah.
At least the hard count gave up a down rather than a turnover.
I'm pretty sure the hard count's the reason why they lost. So they tried because after that
Yeah, they were gonna go for it.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't thinking
And then
about that.
Elkins
Gave up a game.
drove down the
No,
field.
the reason they lost is because AJ Dillon can't get a freaking yard on third down. But whatever.
Because, it's because unlike the Bears, the Falcons actually have a real defense this year, Kyle. Like I said last week.
Okay, all right, Grayson. What's our next point?
BB. The Falcons secondary did not have the Green Bay Packers number.
Look,
and
it don't matter. Hey, 2-0.
They had their number before the ball got to him with all the freaking penalties.
That's called defense, man. I'd rather give them a pass interference PI call than a touchdown.
So our second point for the low light this week is the Raiders defense. Just looking right here at the stats for the Bills, just FYI for anybody that didn't keep up with the game, the Bills won 38-10. Josh Allen went 31 for 37 with 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jared Cook had 17 rushes for 123 yards. That's a 7.2 yard per carry. And then on top of that, Damian Harris had 33, Latavius Murray had 22, and apparently Kyle Allen got playing time. So the only reason I see that is because he had 2 rushing attempts for -2 yards. So he didn't really help the yardage. Yeah,
he
went
the ball.
Yeah, so he wow. But yeah, so the thing is like Gabe Davis was the main target.
Mm-hmm.
I say main target. Him and Diggs had the same amount of targets, but Gabe Davis had 6 receptions for 92 yards.
Hey,
And-
was there did the offense ever allow a sack on Josh Allen at all? Because
Sacks.
Okay, two sacks. Okay, yeah. Because the first thing so I didn't get to watch the game because I'm out of market for it. But when I was following the stats and everything, and I was seeing that score, and I was curious myself if Josh Allen had ever been sacked, because you got Mad Max Crosby on that defensive line. 2 sacks means they contained him, so that's one dog of a player.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
the
big.
Raiders, it wasn't like they were letting up these massive plays. It was just consistent 5 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 7 yards. It was that the entire game. And essentially the Bills didn't have to have these massive plays, we've seen in the past with, a 70-yard bomb to Gabe Davis or things like that. It was just, a balanced, consistent effort on offense from the Bills, and the Raiders they couldn't stop them.
Well, and to your point, I'm looking at it right here. The longest plays was like a 36-yard run by Cook, a 40-yard reception by Gabe Davis, and then there's like a 26-yard reception by Cook. But other than that, everything's under 17 yards.
It was just a consistent, we're going to do what we want and impose our will, and you're going to do nothing to stop it. And that's exactly what happened. So the stats, it was a blowout, but it goes even further into that. It's just like the Bills did exactly what they wanted.
Absolutely.
So does this
from them after the Jets?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kyle. I accidentally interrupted you on that.
I was saying great bounce back game from him after the Jets, because that was rough for him first week. We're counting out Josh Allen and everything, you come back and you rebound like that, and you do a good job. So
yeah. Well, and our final low light right here. Honestly, I think the low light was going to be the loser of this game, but the Arizona Cardinals versus the Giants. Daniel Jones had 321 passing yards, guys, and 2 touchdowns. And then on top of that, Daniel Jones also had 59 yards rushing. So
Polar fantasy player ever.
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, Grayson, they were up 17-0.
Yeah.
And they still lost.
Yeah.
The highlight of this low light is Josh Dobbs, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Josh Dobbs had a great game. He had an
zero
absolutely great game.
expectations, and he's come out and I mean the first two games. I mean, I know they've lost them, but still, I mean, he has played good, even though he doesn't know, the names of half of his offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at him right here, he had 228 yards in the air, and then he had 41 yards on the ground. So, I mean, he was able to make plays, I guess you can say. He was able to get stuff done with what he's working with. He had a reception to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He had a target or a reception to 8 different players, or 7 different players targeted 8. So, I mean, he was spreading the ball around, getting the ball. Marquise Brown had 10 targets for 6 receptions. So,
do you think Kyle Murray would actually do better?
No.
With his performances in the past?
I don't know.
No.
I think this year for the Cardinals, when Kyler Murray comes back, I think it's going to be more of a quarterback. Like they're going to start Kyler Murray. Like they are going to. They've invested money in him. Like if I'm not mistaken, there was like a little bit of a holdout with him last year. So they've kind of given him the money and said like, hey, like you're going to be our guy. But that's going to remains to be seen, because right now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you can never put him and Justin Fields in the same category.
Yes.
Well, there are rumors that if they don't win a game, they're just going to fully commit on tanking, and he's going to stay on IR the entire season.
I believe that. So
tank for Caleb Williams, though?
That's what I was going to ask.
Why get another quarterback when obviously you have a quarterback that's not doing bad now, but you still can't win?
Well, you see, they're already stupid.
Oh yeah, that's fair. So.
Yeah, I mean, like if I was the Bears, I would take Caleb Williams, but Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, obviously, like all teams, the Cardinals probably have other things they can fill than a quarterback. But I guess that remains to be seen, and we'll see what they do next year in the draft, depending on where they're at. So, moving on from our highlights and lowlights, though, we've got game predictions this week, guys.
Yeah, we do.
Just to run through the records, Kyle is 4-6. Caleb and BB both are 6-4, and then me and Nick are 7-3. So that is with our Buffalo and Jets game factored in that we were recording through last week. So luckily all of our games finished yesterday. So we have an even 10-game split right here.
Yeah.
But moving on to our slate of games, though, we have Atlanta at Detroit. We have the Eagles at Tampa Bay. We have the Chargers at Minnesota. We've got New Orleans and Green Bay. And then we also have the Colts versus the Ravens. So, as always, with the picks, Kyle, we'll start with you. Let's run through all your picks.
Okay, yeah, I got Detroit winning against Atlanta. I think Detroit's offense is going to be a little bit too much for Atlanta.
I feel like that's a light pick.
Yeah.
That's like me. That was like me how I was treating Tulane like 2 weeks ago. Like that, didn't want anything to do with Tulane.
Well, as Caleb says, Atlanta's DBs are trash, so they're not going to keep up with Detroit.
150 yards passing, bud. Indiana.
Philadelphia, Tampa against Philly. Give me Tampa, man. Philly's offense just ain't it this year. But not looking like they were last year. I don't like it. Baker's coming out there. He's what he used to be. Man, I hope he keeps it up. And I hope they dominate. I don't like Philly. I don't like your fans either, Philly.
Philly might get you for that.
They probably will. Give me Minnesota of the Chargers. Cousins and Jefferson going to be a big connection this week.
Really?
I don't see them going 0-3. I just can't see that.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. And then I guess give me New Orleans over Green Bay. I don't trust Green Bay's defense. Joe Burrow is not the guy. What a terrible scheme. He doesn't even look like he's trying to send pressure. Dude probably tells his D line, say, hey, just fall back, guys. If they score, it's okay. What an idiot. Whatever. then give me Baltimore. Baltimore's way too much for Indianapolis with their rookie QB. No offense to Richardson, but he doesn't got it in him. He's not the dog for this game.
This episode will now be labeled as the Joe Barry hate episode. I thought it was going to be a college football episode, but it sounds like it's going to be a Joe Barry hate episode. Caleb, let's go to your picks. That way you can hate on Joe Barry too.
Yeah, so I'm gonna save my New Orleans Green Bay pick for last. So I'm gonna go a little out of order. So Atlanta, Detroit. I agree with Kyle. I have Detroit. I think the Lions have a better quarterback in Jared Goff, and they have better receivers than what Green Bay had. So if Jordan Love had a better receiver core, I think the Packers would have won handily. And I think the Lions actually do have the receiver core and the quarterback chemistry to get that done. For Philly and Tampa Bay, again, I agree with Kyle. I think Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield's been on a ball. This will be his biggest test thus far, I think, while in Tampa Bay. But the Eagles secondary is really tough with Darius Slay. And I just think that Tampa Bay has, in addition to Mayfield, the receiving talent. And I think he'll be able to get the passes done to get the win. For the Chargers and Vikings, I got the Vikings too. Me and Kyle are kind of marching in lockstep so far. I think the Vikings defense won't be able to keep Chargers from scoring, but the Vikings offense will be far too strong for the Chargers secondary, which gave up 246 yards and a passing touchdown to Ryan Tannehill of all quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins is not Ryan Tannehill.
So, hey, Brett Favre either.
That is a fact. That is a fact.
So, and for Indy and Ravens, I know Indy's kind of hot right now just by the way that Anthony Richardson's looking. And Gardner Minshew also, we didn't even mention him. He had a really good showing, for the time he got to play. So, but I'm going to stick with Ravens on this one. It's going to be a shootout, but I think Lamar Jackson and the offense figure it out this game. And I think they're going to come out with the win. Kyle, I'm so happy you came to your senses with this one. For New Orleans and Green Bay, Love was 14 for 25 with 151 yards against the Falcons defense. Didn't throw a single interception. That's a showing he can hang his helmet on, even though they didn't get the win. Could he have played better? Absolutely. Will he play better against New Orleans? Hell to the N to the O to the L to the A, he will not.
Hell no.
Hell no.
Jordan Love is going to have a hell of a time getting the ball to his raggedy-ass receivers when he's got Cam Jordan and Malcolm Roach feeding him the grass all day long. If he somehow manages to muster up the manhood to get a pass off right before he taste tests Lambeau Field, then Marshawn Lattimore and the Saints secondary are going to be lying in wait to rip that sumbitch out the air. If all those limp-wristed passes and interceptions make Green Bay want to go to the ground game, they can be my damn guest. The Saints defense has already proven itself against a run-first offense. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon won't change fate. But wait, Kyle, I haven't even begun to talk about the offense. Desmond Ridder and the Falcons made enough plays to come out on top. We are not the damn Falcons. Derek Carr, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Juwan Johnson, Taysom Hill, Jamal Williams, Rashid Shaheed are going to slice and pound that defense of yours into little Wisconsin cheese curds. They're going to make the entire defense look like Oklahoma State. Who dat say they're going to beat them Saints? It damn sure ain't the Packers.
Yeah, hard counted, nerd.
Would it change your mind if it was supposed to be 58 and 70% chance of rain that day?
Let's not deal in hypotheticals here.
Okay. Just curious.
All right.
Wow.
Since Caleb is done with his promo,
I'm honestly freaking mad. I'm honestly mad Kyle didn't have more to say. I'm mad. For once, I'm mad that he's agreeing with me.
Well, yeah, dude, our defense is trash.
No, you're supposed to be mad every time Kyle agrees with you, not because for content, but because usually that's not what happens when Kyle picks it.
Here's the thing: is Kyle agreeing with you, or are you agreeing with Kyle?
Yeah, I was about to say, I think Caleb cheated off my cheat sheet here, and I did go first, so I'm just saying.
Well, now
My
he's
swayed opinions.
tempted God.
It's just crazy that the Falcons broke Kyle's spirit.
Yeah.
No, fucking Joe Barry and a stupid false start by our quarterback. Oh man, I ain't got a ball in my hand. I better run. Like, what are you doing?
Franchise
Kyle-
QB, baby.
Kyle,
He's a Hall of
I'm
Famer.
just gonna quote BB when he said last week, "You're a bad fan. You're a bad fan, Kyle."
You're a
Change the
t-shirt fan.
narrative.
T-shirt fan, boy.
Change the narrative. Oh boy.
God.
Oh God.
All
Which one
right,
of you?
next pick.
It's-
God
Nick.
bless.
Nick, it's you.
Yeah. Well, so every week, in preparation for the podcast, we all send in our picks beforehand. So it gives me confidence that me and Kyle only had one similar pick. So I feel really good about this week. Plus, me and Grayson are tied for the best records on our pick so far. So keep them coming, Kyle. So first, Atlanta, Detroit. I'm not going to spend much time on that. But I will say everybody's talking about Detroit's offense. Yes, it looks great. Their defense has looked much improved. Yes, they did have the overtime loss to the Seahawks. But I don't look too much into that with it being a overtime kind of ordeal. I think their defense is just good enough now to get them the wins where their offense can really take off. And so, yeah, I think Detroit's going to be too much for Atlanta. Philly, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has played really well, yes. And yet Philly, they played really crappy. But Philly hasn't lost yet. And so between their defense, that's still, I would argue, top 5.
Agreed.
And I mean, they're right up there with the Cowboys and the 49ers. I don't think last season for Jalen Hurts was a fluke. I would say these first 2 games have just been, him not playing up to standard. I think he's going to get A.J. Brown the ball. I think DeAndre Swift, look at him. Look at the resurgence of DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I got a game off.
Yeah. Man is a unit.
I've got Philadelphia. I'm not going to pick against Philadelphia for a bit. Next game, Chargers, Minnesota. This is definitely one of those, critical games early in the season that help define the team's outlook on the year, where they're both 0-2, which is, very surprising because we both, we all picked them as both of them as top teams, and they're both 0-2. But the Chargers have lost both times off a field goal. And so I don't pick the Chargers to lose this game. I think they've got a little bit more defense than the Vikings, whereas I would say their offenses are going to be the same. And more than likely you get Eckler back. Yeah, I would take the Chargers. Green Bay, New Orleans. I was the only one that picked Green Bay. I don't think. I feel like a lot has to go within tonight as well, with how New Orleans does. But I just don't think New Orleans' offense is there. Yes, they had a big passing performance in Week 1 against the Titans, but I think Green Bay's still a little bit more of a complete team, and I think they win a close one. And then Indianapolis, Baltimore. I've got this one starred, like another one down below, for college, but this one's starred because I picked the Colts. That's only if Anthony Richardson starts. I think if Gardner Minshew comes out and plays, then it's going to be the Ravens. But the Colts have had a lot of momentum, and I think they've gotten confidence off that. They don't look bad. I mean, they really don't. And they're getting some receivers to get involved. And so their offensive line looks good. So I think the Colts will squeak out one where I feel like the Ravens their offense has been lackluster these last 2 weeks.
Yeah. And to interject right quick before BB goes in, if you guys haven't seen it, you guys need to check out the pick 6 that Pittsburgh just had. Pittsburgh, it hit off the tight end's hands for Cleveland. First play of the game, first play from scrimmage, hit off his hands. Minka Fitzpatrick caught it. The tight end ran to him. It bounced out of Minka Fitzpatrick's hands and bounced into Alex Highsmith, the linebacker for Pittsburgh's hands after that, and he ran it back for a pick six.
Deshaun Watson.
Crazy
Hayes
play.
having a stroke right now.
Yeah, I'm seeing the group message light up right now that we're in with him, and he's I think he just said that the neighbors are in danger. So more to come on that developing story. BB, who you got for your picks, man?
All right, so I did say the Falcons are going like 12-5 this year.
Yeah.
Here's one of those 5 losses. Which I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I just don't. I don't think so. For the Eagles, Bucks, I'm going with Tampa Bay. Because Baker Mayfield's a dog. And dog. And I just honestly, I'm picking Tampa Bay, but I think we're going to see Philadelphia play a little bit better, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Because besides Philadelphia, it's 2-team race for the NFC.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Chargers over Minnesota. I just think that's gonna be a tough game for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Saints over Green Bay, because if you can't beat the Falcons, you definitely can beat the Saints. And the last one I had a tough time picking was Indy and Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure the health of Anthony Richardson, so I went with the healthy quarterback I do know, so I'm picking Baltimore.
Gotcha. Yeah, and for my picks this week, Atlanta, Detroit, I'm going to pick Detroit. Basically from what you guys said, I think Detroit's the just better team this week. Honestly, they're playing in Detroit too. Philly and Tampa Bay, like I know I'm probably going to get flack from like probably the 2 other Tampa Bay fans that listen to this, but I'm going to pick Philly. The reason why I pick Philly is because they do have offensive firepower, kind of like the Vikings had, but the difference is that the Eagles have a red zone offense. They have a much better red zone offense than what we've seen from the Vikings this year. So I think they'll be able to punch the ball in a lot better than the Vikings did week 1. So I think that's why they're going to steal this one from Tampa Bay. I hate to say it. I do think it's going to be a tight game. I think this could be a 4-point game, honestly, like a 28-24, 30-26 game. Chargers in Minnesota. So I've said in the past that the Vikings play down to their opponents and they play up to the good teams. I think they're going to do that this week, but I think they're still going to get beat by the Chargers. I just don't I think it's going to be a high-scoring shootout of a game, but I think the Chargers still take it. Honestly, I could see it being 45-38 or something like that. I just don't think that there's something wrong in Minnesota. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is yet, but there's something wrong in Minnesota, and they got to get that straight before they can figure out anything else. New Orleans and Green Bay. I'm picking New Orleans basically for the same thing of what BB just said. If you can't beat the Falcons, probably ain't gonna be the Saints. And finally, Indianapolis and Baltimore. I've got Baltimore with the health of Richardson, with the offensive talent that comes from guys like Lamar Jackson, the playmaking ability. I don't think you can count them out. I hope Gardner Minshew, my Halloween costume for 2 years, I hope he does great. That's actually the header, my picture on the header. I was dressed up as Gardner Minshew. So I hope he does great, but I just don't foresee Indianapolis walking out of Baltimore with a win. So moving on, here's the meat of the episode, guys. College football. We're going to go through these two first topics pretty quick, and then we got something else planned for y'all today. So game of the week, we decided game of the week was Kansas State and Missouri.
I was stupid with my too high, too low. I said Washington was too low or too high, and Kansas State was too low. Yeah, I was stupid.
Well, and when you got a kicker that breaks the SEC record with a 61-yard field goal to win the game. I mean, that was a ballsy call.
And he was built like me too.
Yeah, and I was just about to say the biggest understatement I saw on Saturday was that dude's relative. I don't know if it was his mom or his aunt or something, but they wore a T-shirt with him on it and it said "Thicker Kicker."
Yeah, well,
Thicker kicker.
He's also on the depth chart as their second string right guard. Like, he dude's huge. So yeah, that was a really good game to watch. Obviously ended in dramatic fashion. And player of the week we decided was Trevor Etienne. 23 rushing attempts for 172 yards against Tennessee with 2 touchdowns. He was averaging 7.5 yards a carry, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
He took a pretty big role in the second half with Mertz losing the tip of his thumb where he couldn't throw anymore. So he drove that ball. He got it out of the Tennessee's hands, and
well, yeah, like you kind of like ran through it right quick. That legitimately happened. Like, he lost the tip of his thumb.
That's what I read on the reports. I think when he got hit, it clipped someone's side of the helmet or something like that, and it ripped off the tip.
Ugh.
Yeah, but maybe that was a wrong report. But that's what I read, and that's a bad injury. Would you think the way they grip that the football and how it rolls off?
Like, is it
Shut
a
up.
female or is it another?
Grip that thumb.
Grip that thumb.
So
Well,
is he like nubbed up now, or is it just a finger?
No, it's just just lost his fingerprint.
He just lost a quarter inch. That's
and he
fine.
can still pass better than Wisconsin. So with that though, I picked Florida. Trevor Etienne had a great game, but Tennessee, their first 2 games, and one of them included Virginia, who had a good running team. They had held both opponents under 100 yards each week, and then Trevor Etienne comes out of here with 172 alone. I mean, that just says something. I mean, again, they ran all over that, top 25 rush defense.
Yeah, and another thing I read too is that for the past 2 games, I didn't realize this. Tennessee was 4th in the FBS in rushing yards per game.
There you go.
And obviously, when they went down, if I'm not mistaken, they went down pretty early against Texas. Tennessee. Sorry, I got my oranges wrong. Yeah, the burnt orange UTs. But yeah, they went down pretty early against Tennessee. So they obviously had to play from behind, got to score quick. What do? Pass the ball. So I kind of exposed Joe Milton a little bit, not like to be like the hype that he was in the preseason when he was throwing 70-yard bombs. Dude still got an incredible arm. But I think that kind of brought a lot of, especially Tennessee fans, and I mean just fans in the SEC in general, down to earth.
Yeah, and Trevor Etienne, for all the reasons Nick just pointed out, to have a performance like that in a primetime game at your home stadium after struggling in your first couple of games against a rival, like
dog,
huge dog. But all right, well, that's going to move into our next segment, and this is going to be interesting. This is going to be kind of the first of one of these we've ever had, and so we're going to do a debate. And the debate is going to be kind of like the rules on college football fandom. So I know BB kind of wants to lead this off because he's trying to get a point across. It's basically like, who do you pick as your team? Obviously, as everybody on the podcast should know, or that's listening should know, like all of us, we went to the University of South Alabama. That's our alma mater. So with that being said, BB, if you wanna start it off and kind of, well, let me start off with this. Like, the way I kind of see this argument is, if your alma mater that you went to, if you have an alma mater, plays your favorite team. So for me, it'd be Auburn. For Kyle, it'd be Wisconsin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who would you root for? And that's kind of where your allegiance lies in that game. So I know, like I said, I know BB got pretty passionate about it Saturday after he got fueled up. So if you want to lead it off with it, BB.
Half passionate, but really, I guess what all like the summing up, the drinking, uh, uh,
Rant.
rant. There you go.
Wait, hold on. You drink?
Nah,
I was about to say.
It
I
causes a
believe.
problem for his family.
Yeah, I got a
And
court. I
group,
got a court. I got a
apparently.
court order to prove that. No, but so my whole thing is so South was playing Oklahoma State, right? Our alma mater is playing it's a big time game, and we went to their trap and took over their trap. We the whole crap out of them. And as it's going on, like I mean, like no, for me, like when I was in school there for the past like what 5 years it took me.
Just 5.
Just
Yeah.
5. Thank you.
Thereabouts.
There's some doubts, but we were just awful, right?
Yes.
Like
Absolutely.
like I could find 11 people in my neighborhood and we could give them a run for the money.
Yep.
And like I don't know if we're in the middle of like the greatest run in our program's history, or hopefully this is the prelude to it. But when like you got this going on, and then you got people that are alums that are crying and moaning about Alabama playing USF, just rubs me the wrong way. And I guess a part of it is like I have like a lot of school spirit, I guess I'd say. But
Yeah.
like
Well, and feeding into that too, for us, obviously we put a lot of like we put a lot of money. We just spent a lot of time on campus. I mean, we were all part of a fraternity with each other, so it's like there was a lot of spirit there for us. So I guess like with me, it's like since you've put all of that into the school, it's hard. Like I just find it hard to not have that as your primary team. Of course, I like Auburn. They were my team growing up, but in the same token too, I didn't go to Auburn. I hadn't been to a game in 4 years. And honestly, I couldn't tell you a single time when I've watched a full game.
yeah.
And I watched the entirety of South Alabama versus Oklahoma State. I watched the entirety of USA versus Tulane when we got skull drug. So
week 1, we would have won.
Yeah.
But really, the one thing that I think is bull crap, and I think it's a problem not only at South but like across a group of 5 schools in general, is the go to the game and like leave at halftime to go watch your school, whoever it may be, go play ITT Tech, and it happens everywhere. I mean, I dropped it in our group chat, but the South Alabama Sideline Sports Network, I guess you know what SSN is.
Yeah.
Went on a rant about 2 weeks ago, and I just want all the millions of people that listen to this podcast, I just want you to go read it and then go look at the comments and it's like it's not just a problem at South; it's a problem everywhere. And honestly, I think it's just kind of bullcrap. To be honest with you,
yeah.
Like it makes me feel like that people are bandwagoning their alma mater instead of bandwagoning like Alabama, Auburn, Wisconsin, or whoever it is you know.
So, on that point, a lot of people do. Okay, let me just say this: people don't go to their college for football. They go to their college for the program that best fits them. They go to the college that they can afford. I would have loved to gone to Wisconsin. Their programs didn't match mine. It would have been an extra $20,000 a year. I've cheered for them my whole life, and don't get me wrong, I love South Alabama. I yell at the screen when they score. I go in there and I shake Shy a little bit, like, "Did you see that?" And she says, "Get the hell away from me." I do all that fun stuff.
Who are you?
But yeah. But since I was 3, I was a Wisconsin fan. To Grayson's point, if those two played each other, I wouldn't root for either team. I would be right down the middle.
So I want to to provide a contrasting point of view. I grew up from day one a fan of the University of Alabama football. So that's my other team, so to speak. However, I went to school, as Grayson stated earlier, at the University of South Alabama. And in my years of attending that school, and in my years of attending those games and watching them play, and the years I went to the University of South Alabama, they were not a good team. I personally sat next to BB in the student section, near the sideline facing Troy as they drubbed us, and heard BB yelling at the offensive line for Troy while South Alabama was on offense. And the offensive line on the sideline for Troy, BB started yelling, "We are a baseball school." So I have seen South Alabama at their lowest points. I agree with BB. It does seem like the tide is changing at South Alabama. And although I have held the University of Alabama in a very special place in my heart growing up from family members on, I think honestly the pride I felt as a student of the University of South Alabama would win over in a game where South Alabama were hypothetically playing the University of Alabama. And that just comes from my own sense of pride as a student for the University of South Alabama. And one thing I think BB touched on, I don't think he's spoken on it yet, but one thing he touched on in our group chat, there was a lot of messages flying around. But one thing he pointed out is your university, if you go to a Sunbelt school, if you go to a Conference USA school, your university is not going to grow its fan base. It's not going to recruit more students. It's not going to grow as a whole if you don't show the same allegiance to your university that you showed to your favorite college football team before you went to the university. So that's one thing that I wholeheartedly agree with BB.
The only thing that I have to really say, because I pretty much support the whole, you pull for your alma mater, like everybody else has said, because of the money, because of the time, because of who you met. But for me, not looking at specific teams, for example, I'm a college football fan. If I see it's week 8 and South is playing at home and I'm at the game and South is winning 53-0 against their homecoming team like Central Michigan or whoever, and it's 53-0 at third quarter, and I know Alabama and Texas are about to play, and Alabama's number 1, Texas is number 3. I will tell you right now, I will watch that Alabama-Texas game as a college football fan, not because I like Bama, not because I like Texas, but because that matchup is massive. That goes for any other team. So, yes, I would personally start to watch that. Now, if it's a close game between anybody with South, I will stay and watch. But I think it's very circumstantial. Because again, if it's a 53-0 lead, there's no point in me watching the rest of it, because I want to see this big top 10 matchup in the college football world, because it's going to have implications on everything. So that's me as a college football fan.
Yeah. Well, and there's definitely a difference between having no connections with the university and having some kind of connection. Because I know like Kyle, for example, I know you can touch on this quite a bit. Like if I'm not mistaken, your parents went to Wisconsin, correct?
My uncles did and all that.
Yeah, so you had family there.
Yeah.
So I also had an uncle that went to Auburn. So there's a smooth gradient into like having a reason, like if you're like parents went, or maybe like that was like the first sporting event you ever went to, or something of that nature. We're not saying you can't be a fan of another team by any means, but Well, I'll just say that and get your opinions on it before I go into our third topic, which I'm probably gonna give a lot on.
I just think with the modern day streaming and all that, it's so easy to be able to watch all the games at once. As I told y'all earlier, I have 3 games all going on at the same time. Y'all do it with NFL. I told y'all I'm a bigger college fan, so I always have a lot of games going on. South is always on the big screen, mostly because I don't like the people who do the commentary for Wisconsin because they usually suck. But I do.
Probably a
I
better
do have.
team.
Well, yeah, fair enough right now. But South is on the big screen all the time. It's great watching them. Finally get some national spotlight. They shouldn't have been on ESPN Plus. They should have at least been on Fox Sports 1 with that game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big upset game.
Yeah.
And, that's another thing. A lot of people who went there don't have access to the games all the times.
And
They're not like us who buy all these streaming services to watch it.
One thing to point out, I do believe it was on the Big 12 network.
I think it was just ESPN Plus.
It was ESPN Plus and Big 12 network.
I think it was ESPN Plus and SEC. No, never mind.
Well, I mean, I just want to add.
SBC Network.
I wish. Really, the one thing I want to add, because this pretty much sums up everything, is that is people getting mad about teams that don't have like any affiliation with whatsoever.
And what do we call those fans, BB?
Kyle.
T-shirt fans.
A T-shirt fan.
How about that for a segue?
I think everybody in this group me can agree that the worst kind of fan is the T-shirt fan. It's the one, as BB said in the group message Saturday, there's several quotes that we could use, but this is one I'm going to use. The ones that go to Academy to get their insert team name here shirt.
Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee,
whoever.
Ohio State.
And their mood for the week depends on how that team did. They have no connection to the university. They've never been to the city it's in. They just sit in their homes on Saturday to watch that game, and every single play, if it's a positive play, they are like, if it's a 7-8 yard play, they're jumping, yelling at the screen, yelling at other people. And then if it's a busted play or even just like a neutral play, they want the coach fired. The offensive line needs to be replaced. Those are the worst types of fans. Yes. And it's usually the ones that give them a bad name.
I used to work with a guy. If Alabama lost, he would call in all week.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane. So, and it kind of goes into what BB was talking about earlier about like the bandwagoning, even though it's the alumni that's bandwagoning. Like I think as an alumni, that should be your priority. But like, a lot of people like in the area of Mobile, oh, that's the hometown school. Oh, they're doing good. Go south in your mouth, pause in your draws. Like, dude, you weren't saying this like 2 weeks ago. Like you were sitting here watching Alabama versus Sister Mary's of the Damned, or Auburn playing, Cal Polytech for the quadriplegic. So like you can't jump on it when they have a major upset or a great season like they did last year.
Yeah. And go ahead, BB. I'll let you go, man.
I'm just going to add this little tidbit. I sent this to Grayson earlier. This was from like the first home game, the average attendance for everybody's first home game. South is dead last, coming off a 10-2 season. Southern Miss averaged 30,000, doubled our attendance. Southern Miss is garbage. But the thing is, people care about Southern Miss. People don't care about, little old South Alabama. That's what really the whole basis of my point was.
And what kills me with that attendance is they built that stadium on the campus.
Yes.
Yes. And it's not a
paid for that stadium.
That is beautiful.
Literally.
That is a beautiful stadium.
And like,
yeah. Didn't we shoot 25K to them? Like, seriously.
Yes, yes. We got a little name tag to prove it too.
Yeah.
Like, and like part of me thinks that like these kids, like how they say, "Oh, these kids." Back in my day, I walked up to school both ways. I guarantee you, if they experienced Lad and the team at Lad,
Ooh.
they would appreciate
How good they've gotten and how much better it's
Hancock,
gotten.
the
Yeah.
college, and
Their opportunity.
We
To
we
enjoy
risked
a
our
game.
lives. We risked our lives every Saturday to go to Lad.
brother, yes. I mean,
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
I've seen. You talk about an insecure experience. I saw a guy draw a gun outside of Lad People Stadium. A
Yes.
Troy fan draw a gun
No,
outside of
no,
Lad
dude,
People Stadium.
I saw a South Alabama fan draw a gun on a bunch of Troy students. I'm not saying they probably didn't deserve it,
It's not
but
But well, and the thing is too is that just geographically for everybody that has never been to Mobile, Lad People Stadium was in downtown Mobile, which is basically a small big city. And the stadium now is on campus in West Mobile. So you don't have to worry about going down into Mobile, which is not that great of a city and kind of dangerous. You can go out to West
At parts. Yeah.
at parts. Not obviously Spring Hill's not bad. But
Not
I
in
want to get
Spring
lost
Hill.
where the stadium was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I'm saying like Spring Hill's not a bad part. Where Lad Peebles was not a great part of Mobile.
No.
Yeah, and if you
So-
and if you didn't want to park, like if you didn't want to have to go through all the hassle of getting a parking pass just to park there, you had to hop on a shuttle that the school sponsored to bus you over there with all these other people in the mid. And if you've ever been to Mobile in the early fall, it's just like summer weather. So you're
97.
just baking in a bus.
97 hot.
92 with about 112% humidity.
Imagine 25 BBs all drunk, sweaty on top of you.
Yeah.
There you go.
But
To
I mean,
put it in perspective, Lad Peoples over the last 2 years, they still host high school games, have had 2 shootings at high school games, not just pulling a gun out, but shots fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have moved that they moved the stadium or built the stadium at the University of South Alabama, which is in West Mobile, which is more, I would say, suburban. It's not like down in the middle. There's no bars around. There's nothing going on all the time.
It's easy to get to, not bad
easily
traffic.
accessible. So it's like a suburban area besides airport, which is a nightmare, but it's an easy place to get to rather than downtown. So the fact that, like BB said, we have 15,000, even if that number is accurate,
I mean,
only going to the games, that it's kind of brutal, and it's for, oh well, South is going to do well, or South is going to be South. South is going to play the football game. I'm more worried about Auburn versus whoever they played.
What kills me is the year after we graduate, 2021, and they had games there. All of us as alum went to those games.
Oh, absolutely.
And it just kills me to students now because I know how Mobile is. I know there's things to do, but those games are fun. And the fact that you're not there
honestly,
kills me.
honestly, I don't even think it's. I mean, it's on the students for leaving at halftime to go. It's like kind of people I'm referring to.
Yeah.
You know, and like to be honest with you, I know they, the one game we had at home, we were playing Southeastern Louisiana, and yeah, like next point, I watched South play ITT Tech or watch Alabama Texas. Well, that game was 7-7 at halftime, and like it'd be embarrassing if you lose. And after, I mean, you look up in the stands, and that student section dwindled to 30 people. It's not a good look, and you know, you gotta.
No one wants to
Doesn't
come
even
to
all play.
Mobile to play for South Alabama if no one's watching.
Yeah,
That's just
and
the
it's more-
plain and
it's-
simple.
It's more an indictment on the community, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, like the first half, man, it's rocking, and after that, it's just
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
And
I'm getting told from our Beagle correspondent here, Ranger, that we have to move on. So we are going to go ahead and move on. Yeah, buddy. Trust me. I know. Yeah, I'm sorry I went on a rant. So we are going to move on into the bulk of week 3. Obviously, like I said earlier, this week is big, guys. This is a lot of the start of the conference play. This is a lot of just big games in general. I think every game that we're picking today, besides one, is a conference game. And they didn't slouch with the matchmaking this year. So some of the games that, we don't, that we're not going to pick, but we're going to kind of skim over and just state is that you got Auburn versus Texas A&M. Auburn's undefeated. Texas A&M, are they not undefeated as well?
No, they lost to
2-1,
Miami.
but boy, Jimbo Fisher better get his stuff together
Lost
because
to Miami.
Yeah. So we've got them. I know Kyle is excited about Iowa and Penn State. So
Hey, man.
yeah,
Iowa 41 points last week, baby.
yeah, against
And a
who?
cheerleader
Hey,
shucked
hey,
his
hey.
own corn.
Against Reginald's Barbershop. Like who did they play?
we don't care about who they played. Iowa put up 41 points. Is all that matters.
Yeah. So you've got that game. You've got Kansas State playing UCF. How does Kansas State bounce back against a heartbreaking loss to Missouri? And then you've got UCF that's always kind of been waiting in the wings. Obviously they had their national championship season a couple years ago, and then everything kind of fell off for a little bit. And so but they're always one of those teams that like they can shock you. And if I'm not mistaken,
Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
I was just saying that they're playing in UCF too.
And they're moving to the Big 12 next year. So they actually, they're going to be a power 4 team now. So I mean, they have something to prove.
Yeah. And then as always, our South Alabama Jaguars are playing Central Michigan. So how do they move on from their big win against Oklahoma State? Is this a trap game?
And one thing I would like to say on that is, one thing that we all should learn, even though we were on the right side of history when it comes to Saturday, South shouldn't be taken for granted. Neither should Central Michigan. They need to capitalize on that success, but they need to take every game as seriously as they took Oklahoma State. Not to say that they don't. Kane Womack knows what he's doing. But, I'm not treating any game like it's a sure thing for South Alabama.
You don't want to fall into a trap game after a big win like that.
Yeah.
And I also want to add that UCF and Kansas State is a conference game this year. That all the Big 12 did their stuff this year, not next year.
Oh, they already are.
Oh, okay.
Okay, exactly.
Texas and Oklahoma leave next year, but yeah.
Well, and then going back to the South game, I've got a few things to say. First things first. Sorry, Caleb. South in your mouth, pause in your fucking draws. LaDamian Webb is back. That's a fact. Central Michigan ain't got shit on South Alabama. This is going to be a blowout. South Alabama's back. Go Jags.
Go Jags. I'm just saying.
Anyway, sorry. Got a little excited there. So into our game predictions. This is where we're going to be talking about the bulk of our the bulk of our picks this week, really, and our college football segment. We actually picked 6 games this week. Just to run through the records real quick, Kyle is 7-8. BB is also 7-8. Caleb, I had you for the right record. I had you at 10-5, and then I put you at 12-3, and then I realized I wrote it down wrong, and you're 10-5.
Yeah, you kind of gave me a superiority complex for an evening.
Well, I had to knock you down.
Hey, I'm with it, man. I'm gonna be honest with this.
Yeah, I'm at 11-4 through 2 weeks. 3 weeks, sorry, and then Nick is at 12-3.
100% 2 weeks in a row.
Florida, baby.
Absolutely. So
Cheater.
that being, he's calling ahead. Like he's calling
I'm
ahead.
just picking against
did-
Kyle.
Hey, when you got the
Probably
when the news
it's our
broke
inside
that,
analyst we have.
when the news broke that Jalen Milroe was going to be starting for the rest of the season, Nick did say Nick Saban heard my footsteps.
He did.
I was coming. I'm gonna spend some time on that in a second.
So going into that, we got 6 games this week because we couldn't contain it to 5 because there's some pretty good games. So we're going to do this in a little bit different from the NFL segment. So we're just going to go through everybody for each game. So let's see, Kyle, we started with you. So BB, let's start with you on the Florida State and Clemson game.
I'm gonna go with Florida State. Clemson, just man,
Yeah.
and I feel like if there's gonna be a game Florida State loses for some whatever reason, it's gonna be this one. But I just don't see it.
Yeah. Nick.
I've got Clemson. Florida State did not look great last week.
Agreed.
I mean, to be fair, it was at Boston College. So, that could have been a trap game, so to say. But this one's at Clemson as well. And coming off an emotional win, just like we were talking about with like South, Texas is another example. They come off an emotional game, and their next game they play like crap, like Texas did with Wyoming.
Yeah.
Clemson kind of had what I had talked about earlier, a couple walkthroughs with what was it, Charleston Southern and FAU, to figure out their offense, and they scored 66 and 48 in those two games. I think Clemson is going to come out and say we're not gone, and I think they're going to upset Florida State because I've also between Florida State, yes, they beat LSU, they look great, but that's it. Florida State does this every year, just like Texas. They look great at the beginning, and everybody gets on the hype train, and then they fall. And I think this is the week that they do it.
Yep. Caleb.
Yeah, so I got Florida State, and I'm not gonna beat a dead horse to death. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse here. It's for all the same reasons that have been brought up. I just think FSU is a more complete team. Yeah, weak showing against Boston College, but I think they're not gonna lose to Clemson, and Clemson, their hopes for an ACC championship's out the window.
Yeah. Kyle.
Yeah, give me Florida State. I think they rebound pretty big after last week's almost upset. Clemson, I'm not impressed by them. I'm probably gonna regret this, and God's laughing at me right now. But yeah, give me Florida State.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Florida State too. I think this past week against Boston College was an eye opener for Florida State. I know Jordan Travis kind of tweaked his shoulder during the game, so I know a lot of that's going to be based on how healthy he is. He needs to be 100% against Clemson, but I think they bounce back. I think they'll have a pretty good game, and I think they'll pull it out. It's gonna be. I mean, the only thing is it is in Clemson, but I think they'll go in there and kind of start putting some doubt in people about Dabo. That's already there. I think that doubt's going to start kind of heightening a little bit, that they've got all this talent. They're not going into the NIL or not doing NIL or not going into the transfer portal, and see what they're missing out on. Moving on, second game we've got is Ole Miss at Bama. Nick, let's start with you on Bama and Ole Miss.
All right. When I first picked this game, I gave an asterisk because I said Alabama will win as long as Jalen Milroe starts. The entirety of after Texas on social media, between friends, between family, these online, forums, everybody was calling for Jalen Milroe's head.
Agreed.
Alabama fans, and I can't say this for all of them, but those type of Alabama fans are entitled
T-shirt
because they think they know best. They want their white quarterback to come in, like an AJ McCarron, to come over here and play and be their, game manager quarterback that fits in their system. Well, buddy, Tommy Rees's system is ass. They were wanting Buckner to come out, and guess what? They got what they wanted against USF. Buckner last year played in 3 games. He started 3 games. He went 1-2. His only win was South Carolina. He went 3 touchdowns to 5 interceptions for 600 yards over all of it. So these Alabama fans calling for Buckner and calling for Ty Simpson, they don't know what they have in Jalen Milroe. It was not Jalen Milroe's fault that they lost against Texas. They sacked him, 5 times? And then this last game, there was another 5-sack appearance by that O-line. They gave up 5 sacks to Buckner and Simpson against USF, who had the 121st ranked defense in the country. Their problem was not Jalen Milroe. And so all these fans calling for Milroe's head, and even Nick Saban's fan, they're fucking stupid. So, yeah, I take Bama because Milroe's going to come out, and I think Milroe's going to shut up a lot of people, and they're going to be thankful for what they have.
Grayson, could I actually go?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So Nick,
Kyle's gonna go now.
Everything you just said is the reason I think Ole Miss wins, because it's not a QB problem. It's a team problem, man. Usually when Alabama loses, that team they play next, God bless them, because they get beat badly. It's like Nick Saban is taking his anger out. But to see them come out after a loss and struggling, and not even just because of QB play, just because their team is not playing like they should, I don't think they're going to get it together. I think Ole Miss is the way better squad. I think they got their things together and everything. I honestly think Ole Miss might beat them by 3 scores.
Yeah. Caleb, we'll get your pick real quick, and then I'll do mine.
Yeah, so me and Nick wrote down a bunch of the same things. I think the only way Alabama wins, and honestly, I think this is what we're going to see. So I think Alabama is going to win. I think they're going to have to roll back the calendars a bunch of years back. For them to be successful on offense, they're going to have to go back to a rushing attack and quit trying to make these quarterbacks accurate passers when they're not. Jalen Milroe, if there's one thing he proved, he did prove that he could make the passes to make the plays. You know, once it gets past a certain yardage, that's when it gets dicey. But you don't need to do that if you're grounding and pounding a defense into submission. So I think for all the reasons Nick said, I won't, recap everything he said. Jalen Milroe, if they commit to Jalen Milroe, I think they can beat Ole Miss.
So the thing about Bama over the past couple of years is Bama has gone through probably the best 4 quarterbacks they have probably ever had. Along with that, they have had a stretch of some of the best receivers that have come through college football. When you've got guys like Jalen Hurts, Tua, Mac Jones, and Bryce Young, those 4 quarterbacks, when they're throwing the ball to guys like Mechie, Judy, Waddle, and Henry Ruggs,
Devontae
Smith. When you've got what was the big tight end?
There was Amari Cooper, but I forgot to. Sorry,
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah,
Calvin. Yeah. So
OJ Howard at tight end.
OJ Howard.
Yeah. So
dogs
went.
But thank you, Kyle.
Units.
I would say from 2019 to 2023, where we're at now, has there been a masked decline of the offensive line? Everybody always talks about how good Alabama's offensive line is, but when you've got playmakers like those 4 quarterbacks, 3, Mac Jones was a pocket passer, but when you've got a guy like Devontae Smith, who won the Heisman, Mechie, who unfortunately got hurt, I think he started his last game yesterday, Judy and Jalen Waddle, when those guys are running the routes, the quarterback doesn't need much time because they're going to have all the space they want. So I think there is a gaping red flag over Alabama. Number one is their offensive line. I don't think they can protect well, and I think they're undisciplined. I think the whole team is kind of undisciplined. According to what we heard about Jalen Milroe being possibly a cancer, from what we heard today in the locker room, we're not making that up. That's just something we heard. So I think there's a lot more problems with Alabama that's going to come to the surface soon. So with that being said, I'm going to take Ole Miss. I know it's going to be a big game in Tuscaloosa, but if Bama's had 3 weeks to figure it out, and it looks like they have been on a steady decline. So unless something changes, I think Ole Miss is going to take a pretty easy win. Moving on, Caleb, let's start with you about UCLA and Utah.
BB has something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't. Nah, don't pay attention.
He
Yeah.
was
Go ahead,
fuming
dude.
over
So,
there.
Hey, pick the
The
pick
Joker
So-
brain was taking over.
My
Yeah.
pick for this game, Grayson.
Oh, my bad. My bad. I was.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. My
But
bad.
but I agree with you, Grace. And I'm picking Ole Miss because it's not a Milrow problem. It's not even it's an offensive line problem. And I wouldn't say it's more that their discipline is that they can't they can't really protect. Two, they can't move the defensive line in the run game. And from what I've saw or seen and all the, I guess you call them highlight clips, the rushing yards they got last week wasn't because the offensive line was getting push and movement. It was, was it Roydell? Is that the running back?
Yeah,
I think
that's the
so.
freshman.
Yeah, redshirt. I think I think he's a redshirt freshman, but it was him creating his own space.
Yeah.
And if you can't move a defensive line against a Conference USA team, I don't think you're going to be able to do it to an SEC team. And until they prove that they can do that, I don't know what you can do offensively for Alabama.
Yeah, the rushing game plan against Ole Miss, I will agree with you. The rushing game plan cannot be Milrow scrambling. They're going to actually have to account for this offensive line in their game plan and work to whatever strengths they have. That offensive line is going to determine a lot.
Yeah.
Really, what I think the best option, and if I was offense coordinator, I'll pull a Dan Mullen with Emory Jones and start running speed options and getting some short.
Well, Tommy Reese sucks.
Yeah, I know, but yeah,
Just like Joe Barry.
The offensive line, for whatever reason, the offensive line is not physical, and it's like you got to try to not be physical to be 6'5", 350. It's just
Okay. Well, sorry about that, BB. I didn't want to, jump over you right there. I apologize.
It's not smart, baby. He hates you.
Yeah, possibly. Caleb,
Okay.
UCLA at Utah.
So was this one of the, I think only me and BB had UCLA for this one, right?
Correct,
Not
yeah.
to
Spoiling it.
jump
You're
everybody,
spoiling
but-
it.
Sorry. But anyway, so I'm picking UCLA because granted they have a weaker schedule compared to Utah, but kind of like how in the past weeks Nick has talked about teams, having their walkthroughs. I think UCLA is going to benefit a lot from basically having 2 weeks of walkthroughs. You look at the stats for Dante Moore, he's thrown 615 yards and 7 TDs on the season. Now, granted, like I said, that schedule hasn't been very competitive, but I think, the freshness of that team is really going to come out against Utah, and they're going to get the W.
Kyle.
Yeah, give me Utah. I mean, that defense stout, bunch of dogs, but no, I don't think UCLA's offense has the chance to actually put any kind of points against Utah's defense, and I mean, it's the reason I picked them to go to the playoffs. So I think they hold pretty steady against them.
Yeah. Let's go with BB here. Who you got?
I got UCLA for a lot of reasons Caleb mentioned, and I don't think Cam Rising.
He sure is coming back
Oh,
this
he's coming
week.
back?
That's why I picked Utah, you stupid.
Thank you for censoring yourself.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
But I mean, either way, I think. Do you think that he will have growing pains coming back since first time since what, January or did he get hurt?
Yeah,
in the World Championship game?
January. It's January.
So I mean, you can practice all you want, but if you get those live reps, you never know if you still got it or not.
No, I agree.
UCLA.
Nick, I think we know who you're going to pick.
Utah. Cam Rising's coming back. And they were saying that, I mean, he was pretty much ready last week. But they wanted one more week of just, let's make sure you're good. Kind of like what Kansas City did with Travis Kelce first week. They thought he was okay. They didn't want to risk it, and they still won with Utah. So I think Cam Rising comes back and he takes this offense to another level.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think Cam Rising comes back. I don't think he misses a step against UCLA. I think this is his. I feel like he's going to come back, and 2 or 3 games into this season, I think he's going to try to make a really big push for Heisman.
He's the new Gardner Minshew.
New Gardner Minshew. I have no doubt in him. So, yeah. So, like I said, I've got Utah. Moving on, a very interesting game that we have coming up is Colorado versus Oregon. This is Colorado's. This could be Colorado's test this week. They go into Oregon. Oregon's a pretty good team. Their quarterback may be a dark horse for Heisman this year. He's having fun. He's with a new offense. So yeah. I mean, we've got this listed, and I'll go ahead and say it. Everybody picked Oregon. So that being said, instead of picking the games, what does Colorado have to do to win, guys?
They're going to have to actually – I'm sorry, Kyle.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, bud.
They're going to actually have to play some defense. These Colorado wins have been all very high-scoring games. Bo Nix has really started – he's having fun. So Bo Nix is going to be the best quarterback they've played. That I can't recall his name, but that quarterback at Colorado State, he was actually moving the ball pretty well at times. But defense is going to have to be a lot more tight for them to win against Oregon.
Yeah.
The reason I picked Oregon was Travis Hunter's out. I mean, that's my biggest reason. If he was still in, I would went Colorado. But that.
Oh. Sorry, Nick Chubb just got carted off the field.
Oh
no!
Ooh, that sucks. Sorry. Breaking
news.
Yeah, I gave no notice whatsoever.
Yeah, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
Just assaulted his neighbor.
Well, yeah, because I was listening. I was like, damn, did Kyle say something hot? But then Nick broke the developing story on us.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good take, honestly, with Travis Hunter being out.
But as you were saying, Kyle.
Yeah, but no Travis Hunter, no chance.
You're missing a top receiver. You're missing a DB.
Yeah.
Well, really, I think what's going to be the kind of like the thorn in the side for Colorado that I didn't really think about until I started listening to local sports radio talk shows talking about it, is how little their defensive line is compared to offensive lines that we play in. And I think they hadn't really had to had that come up to be an issue. And like when Oregon, I guarantee you Oregon's will come out running the ball. And I think it's going to cause a lot of problems down the road.
Yeah. I just think it's going to be a 14-point win by Oregon. Colorado's good. Like, I'm not taking that away from them.
Very good.
And yeah, it's like you have bad, average, good, elite, and like Colorado's definitely. I mean, even possibly you can say they're mid-tier to upper-tier good team, but there's just like they may absolutely go out there and win. I still think Shedeur Sanders is going to go out there and have a game. I think he's going to play really well. I think it's going to turn into a shootout, and I think Oregon's going to get like a cheap touchdown right there at the end. Probably like 6 minutes left, and then Colorado doesn't capitalize. Like, I think it's going to be like a 49-35 win. Like, I think it's going to be a true high-scoring Pac-12 game.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the offense's fault at all.
No.
Moving on, we have Oregon State and Washington State. I'm going to go first right here. I don't really have to say much on this game, but 2 words. Upset alert. That's all I've got to say. I like the underdog. I'm going to go with Washington State. I want to see them beat Oregon State. Not a fan of DJ Uiagalelei or whatever his name is. Like, it's not that I'm not a fan of him, but when a player transfers from a bigger school to a smaller school, or maybe a not as developed like college football program, just kind of see him as quitting. So with that being said, I'm taking Washington State. Nick.
Same. Pretty much for the same reasons. DJ Ungale, he's a good quarterback now in a decent system, but I think Washington State is a more proven team, so they'll take it.
BB?
I'm gonna go with Oregon State. I think Oregon State could be a dark horse to win the Pac-12 this year.
Interesting. Kyle?
Yeah, so opposite of BB, I actually think Washington State is the dark horse. Their QB, pretty good guy. Good scrambler, great passer. So give me Washington State.
Okay. And then Caleb?
So I don't see why so many people on this podcast picked Washington State. I mean, I understand the rationales. I appreciate everyone's rationales, but I mean,
You're welcome.
Cameron Ward's putting up video game numbers. I agree, but who's their rushing leader on that team?
They're an air raid offense, not like Wisconsin.
We're not on that.
Yeah, I get that, but their rushing leader is Cameron Ward with 95 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing. So great on Cameron Ward, but Oregon State, Ukulele, I mean, 630 yards passing and only 2 interceptions with 6 touchdowns is pretty solid. Also, you got Martinez rushing. He's got 351 yards on the season with a touchdown. I think the more balanced offense wins this one.
Well, again, going into like what you said or what Nick said, it's they're an air raid team. And I'm also, just for my records, I'm pulling up Oregon State's season so far. They have played. Oh, okay. So they have played. Ooh, I'm way off. Never mind. Sorry, I'm trying to find games and I can't even find them.
Yeah, fit your narrative. Find your narrative.
Yeah, this is accurate. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at the days and years got me messed up. They have played San Jose State. They have played UC Davis. They have played San Diego State.
All trash.
And
All
I agree, but walkthroughs.
San Diego
3
State.
games, 2 interceptions.
They beat San Diego State 26-9.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're not going to be one-dimensional. They have a running game they can turn to.
Brother, one-dimensional teams blow people out all the time.
That may be, but
Look
I don't
at
think that's going to
Wisconsin.
happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen with Oregon State this time.
But Caleb, think about it like this: Colorado just beat Colorado State by 1 score. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Washington State beat them 50-24.
Yeah, but if you saw the physicality that was in that, if you watched the same game I watched, you saw the physicality of a rivalry that was well in play. There was so much violence. That was the sloppiest football from 2 college football teams I have seen all season because they were playing with so much
Texas,
passion.
Alabama.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Okay, but let's go back to Colorado and Colorado State. So there were so many stupid penalties that I swear, like, it's just. So you had two teams playing. You had Colorado State definitely playing up to Colorado, and at the same time, Colorado playing down to Colorado State. So I don't think that's a tell on whether or not Oregon State's going to be able to lose to Washington State.
Okay, that's fair. They beat Wisconsin 31-22. Caleb, Wisconsin just had 5 interceptions last week. Okay.
Who?
Georgia Southern from
Okay.
the best conference in the country, by the way. He threw
Thumbs up.
208 yards with 2 touchdowns against Wisconsin, Caleb. And then, oh boy, let's see. They beat their cupcake. Like they're supposed to beat their cupcake, 64-21.
And that's true. But, you know, how many other teams are just now getting tested this season? I mean, we just talked about Colorado getting tested against Oregon.
I did not think we were going to spend this much time on this game.
Yeah, but seriously, this is so point being, I think Oregon State's going to win. No one sold me otherwise. So
Point taken. You're wrong. Next.
Okay. All right. So moving on to our final pick of the week is Ohio State and Notre Dame. This is the one technical non-conference game, obviously, since Notre Dame is a GDI. So, with that being said, actually, I'm gonna start this one off just because I feel left out. I think Ohio State's gonna win. Notre Dame has a tendency to choke in the big lights. I know we have said that Ohio State is not playing up to par this year. But with that being said, I don't see Notre Dame getting out of this, and they're playing in South Bend too. But that being said, I think they're just going to ruin Notre Dame's season. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Sam Hartman, the quarterback for Notre Dame. I loved him Wake Forest. I like him at Notre Dame, but I just don't. I don't see a win coming out for Notre Dame. BB?
I got Notre Dame. I'm for Ohio State. It's one of those. I'm gonna wait till they prove it to me before I start picking them.
Yeah.
Because same with like it's just like Alabama. It's hard to come like turn it on all of a sudden, and they really haven't turned it on at all this season.
Yeah.
So,
Nick?
I agree with you. I think Ohio State wins it. I think the key to the game is stopping Estime, Notre Dame's running back.
Mm-hmm.
And all Ohio State has been able to truly prove against the cupcake teams that they've won. I mean, they played Indiana, but they have a solid defense at least. And so with that, what's going on?
I hate to interject. I'm sorry. I know you're right in the middle of it. Nick Chubb's knee exploded.
Yes.
Oh my God! Really?
That's why I said it when I saw it.
Yeah, I just looked up the video because I saw some stuff going on in another group message, and his knee, like viewer discretion advised on that one. Like a knee works like this. It's not supposed to do this, and it definitely did.
Oh, God.
But anyway, continue, Nick. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. With Ohio State, they can stop the run with their defense. That's what they've shown. And then Kyle McCord didn't look bad last week. And even though it is a cupcake team that they beat and he played well, it still drives up the confidence, and I think he'll be ready.
Yeah.
BB obviously just saw the video.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. That's like
I saw it live, so that's why I had to comment that quick.
Yeah, that's like No Sean Marino-esque. Yeah. Caleb.
Yeah, so I'm picking Notre Dame. Don't want to harp too much on points people have already made. So I know we were talking about the schedule when we were talking about Oregon State. Oregon State was beating those cupcake teams as they should have beat the cupcake teams. Ohio State has not been doing that. So I'm taking Notre Dame, and I think Sam Hartman even has a huge game for the Heisman resume, because there's no reason for why when Ohio State's playing these cupcake teams, I mean, other than Indiana, like we talked about, but there's no reason why these stat lines should not be higher on Ohio State's offense, or or less on their defense. I'm thinking Notre Dame takes it. I think Sam Hartman has himself a ball game and gets himself put on the map for the Heisman.
And to sum it all up, Kyle.
Yeah, Notre Dame's offense is going to be way too much for Ohio State's offense to keep up with. Ohio State just not have the offense this year. And Sam Hartman, he's my favorite for the Heisman candidate this year, and I think this is going to be the game that he proves it in.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on from our predictions now for everybody at home's favorite segment, we have Kyle's out of pocket, his OOPP pick of the week. And Kyle, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your OOPP of the week?
Oh, boys, this was a hard week to pick from. Give me Georgia and UAB. UAB right now is a 41.5 underdog. Georgia has not impressed me. That same as with Ohio State, their offense is non-existent. But UAB, they're gonna just cover. I think they're gonna lose by 38 range. Their best bet is to get 2 touchdowns because let's be honest, Georgia's going to score at least 49 on them. But I think they can get away with 2 touchdowns. Let it be an interception for a pick 6 or one that, some trick play for flea flicker to get them in there. But I think it's going to be a close cover. I don't think Georgia's going to get 42 points on them.
Next week, I will have a running record on Kyle's OOPP of the week, just so everyone knows.
He's 0-2.
Not to be 0-3.
I love the reverb on that.
Vivi sounds like God talking to God.
What was that? Does that sound better?
Yeah, there you go.
That was God talking to God. That's terrible.
That was divine intervention.
Oh my god.
And finally, we have our upset watch of the week, which we decided was LSU versus Arkansas. Anybody want to take this away real quick?
I'll start it off. So, rivalry game. If there's,
Yep.
starting off, laying the foundation there. Travis Etienne and the Florida Gators were able to do some remarkable things this past Saturday night. And this one, Razorbacks are capable of it too.
Yeah, I agree. They're playing in Arkansas. I know Arkansas is coming off a hard loss to BYU. This is the definition of a trap game. Yes. LSU just came off a big win against Mississippi State. And when I say big, I mean not big in terms of the stakes, big as in the terms of the score. So with that being said, this is, like I said, this is the definition of a trap game. And especially with it being in Arkansas, I could absolutely see Arkansas sneaking one by them. So,
it'll be a tough one.
Yeah, it will. Well, all right, guys. Well, that wraps up episode 4 of the JEB Board podcast. The meeting is adjourned. Everybody at home, make sure you guys like us and subscribe to us on YouTube. And follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But until that next time, we'll see you then.
New episodes every Wednesday morning.
Kyle's an idiot.
A little bit.